All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Fruits Basket, Season 1, Episode 12.
All right, last episode we had a really funny, kind of like hilarious little time with the bathhouse, but it also led to some wholesome moments getting to see Tohru bring her mom.
Yeah.
Because she would have liked to be there with her.
And, you know, she certainly wouldn't want to be alone at the bathhouse and everything. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But we also got some really sweet stuff with Yuki and Tohru. That was Yuki really turned on the charm there.
Yeah. My boy, you doing
good choice of gift too.
Very good choice of gift. Yes, exactly. But we're getting a lot more of this kind of slice of life feeling of what it's like for her to be a part of their family. Yeah. And then having, of course, Momiji come in and just be like, hey,
just adorable and wonderful.
I
and sweet.
like spending time with Tohru, I will treat you, my princess.
Right,
yes.
Exactly. And then, surprise, he's a year younger than you. Wait, what?
Right, exactly.
Him and Haru, same age.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've been told that Honey from Ouran High School Host Club was directly inspired by this character.
Oh, I totally,
Yeah.
Yep.
They're like, oh yeah, it was like 100% entirely inspired by.
Wow, that makes a ton of sense.
Basket.
Yeah. But then we also had hintings at a new Zodiac member that sounded like it could have been Akito, but then at the same time,
have to be.
Doesn't seem like it'd be Akito. But if it's not Akito, then who is it? Because it doesn't seem like it matches the people in the ED. So, okay.
Because it feels like it's a singular character.
Right, yeah.
So it doesn't feel like the two that were like
the siblings or twins or whatever.
Like right next to each other. Yeah, they look like twins potentially. So,
yeah.
Okay. But yeah, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion.
Oh my god, that episode is amazing.
This episode gave me like the perfect levels of the emotional like
the spectrum.
Like I was terrified this episode. I was dying of laughter this episode. I was emotionally like distraught this episode. I was excited. I was stressed. I was
how do you want to handle the discussion of it?
Because I think we just go packet.
Sure.
Because there's two mini packets that we could focus a little bit too much on, but I think we can focus it in primarily two big portions.
So we've got the part at the beginning where
comedy.
Right, and before that where we established that, like you said, that Akito is going to be the focus of this episode, but then we go into the comedy.
But that's just a structural thing. So the comedy
was so good.
I was astonished with how much this felt like a good comedy skit episode with like lots of dynamic, fun silliness, like what's our favorite school comedy sitcom?
Famofu.
Yeah. It felt like a good episode of Famofu.
Yeah, and like good that if that had been the entire episode, like just them doing that stuff, it still would have been one of my favorite episodes, right?
Yep.
The fact that it then combos and like sort of preps you for what comes next and everything, so that way the bad stuff is sandwiched with wholesome. It was great. Like, and the flow of the comedy from like mini skit to mini skit also worked really well.
It did.
Because like as far as ways to like get all of the characters of the Soma family that are going to be going to this school in the same place, like it worked really well.
It was necessary in order to have it be, I would say, a fast scene. Otherwise, you end up, I would say, kind of maybe wasting a little bit of time by rehashing some of the things that make these characters who they are.
Or like having them just sort of standing around doing nothing while other people do stuff. And it's just like, oh yeah, this character's here because they're all hanging out together, but they don't necessarily add something to the scene.
Otherwise, you just get that constant taking turns talking head kind of thing.
And everyone had their turn. And this very much like when...
And people talked at the same time. Like there was a lot of chaos going on.
Oh yeah. Tons of chaos. And it was great. One of the things that I loved about it is going into the episode and everything, and once it starts, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is kind of like what the show will often do, where it'll have like that comedy bit at the school in the beginning to be like, this is their day-to-day life, and then we're going to go into like sort of the plot of the episode, right? The drama, the stuff that doesn't take place at school.
And it usually only lasts about 90 seconds for school stuff, but this was like half the episode or more, so I was like, yes, let's keep going.
Right, because I've always
Jeez.
loved those bits, and I've always
too.
like wanted like more of that.
Uo and Hana are always in the thick of it, and I just love their characters.
Right, exactly.
The backtalk sass of Kyo and Uo.
God, that was
so
great.
Good.
That was wonderful.
It carried all the way past the Akito stuff into the badminton stuff at the end. So I love seeing the Somas acting in the same space as Hana and Uo, because it normalizes the Somas from their fantastical personas that they keep hidden. And I think that that's something that's really important to also just characterizing them, is we don't know how different they act versus when they're in their homestead. And one of the things that's rather curious is that for the most part, they're consistent. They're consistent all the way through, which means in a lot of ways that maybe Tohru is being such a light in their life
that they're able to truly be themselves even around other
at
people.
School, even around girls that
could reveal their secret.
Freaked the fuck out about, way
We've
back
seen
in the
him do
beginning
that.
of the show. And I love the fact that these characters can then be the sounding board for the audience's thoughts of like, hey, he's having a harder time saying no to her.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
well, ain't that curious?
The Kabe dodge, dude.
Yeah,
like defense thing. Like, oh my god,
that was wonderful. Just from the comedy angle, and of course Tohru's just like, what? Okay,
What?
yeah, sure.
I get it.
And then the thing of the, but you can space out when you're with me. Like he's basically saying like, I care about you, and you
can be yourself and be as free and safe and whatever you want around me. And
exactly.
That's I'll just say, one of the things that's, I would say, like a friendly confession is that whenever you tell someone that they can be themselves and they don't need to perform, they don't need to put up anything around them and stuff like that, that is probably the most like non-romantic way to basically say, I desire your company and I really enjoy being around you.
Right. It's basically a form of saying I love you.
It is a form
but just
of saying
not necessarily romantic. Yeah.
But it is not romantic necessarily.
Yeah.
And what I love about this is that Kyo saying things like this generally comes when he's alone with Tohru. But I think that it would be remiss of us to dismiss it as just a thing he's saying because he loves or is crushing on Tohru. I think this is an aspect of the way that he's growing and the way that he's getting more mature. Slowly but surely.
Right, and that's something where I mentioned it in a previous episode that I liked that there would be time spent or set aside for Kyo to be able to interact with Tohru without anyone else around, because he is a very different person when other people are around, because then he, all the sort of brash bravado and everything comes out, right? So I like that like the fact that we've seen it multiple times almost makes it seem like it's a pattern maybe of like, yes, we will have the Kyo that's like almost like the dark and light Haru, we'll have the Kyo that's like with everybody else, and the what are you talking about,
and then the Kyo that's with Yuki, the Kyo that's well sees Akito. We'll get into that in a second.
That was awesome.
Haru though stole the show.
Holy shit!
The president almost did too.
Right,
but Haru came in and was just like, you know what? Like, I have two personalities here. I count for two characters in this comedy skit.
Exactly.
Y'all ain't got shit on me. Like I am going to go off. And he goes off.
It was so
my
good.
God.
Like and also just the way that because the Haru and the student council president, right? I feel like they were the main characters of the comedy segment once it really got going.
Kinda. I get what you're saying.
And the way that the president was introduced as a riff on the whole thing, like because even before he actually shows up, we get introduced to the concept of the president, and that I
think it was Uo that was saying that he's not actually doing that well, so maybe someone else will be student council president. Maybe the Yuki.
Right, and the idea of let's have the one of the main cast run for president of the school and all that stuff. It's like, hell yeah, it's a trope, but like it's prepping us for that. But then it's like no.
But you have to meet him.
You have to meet him. we have to, like, yes, it's tropey fun, but let's make you really want this to happen, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and then he shows up with theme music and like,
and
you know, the groupies basically yes, we'll clap at whatever you say, you know, Prezkun.
Posing with him. Which,
Oh
by the
God.
way, that was probably my favorite part, was the way they all posed with glasses and stuff like that. And then almost the rest of the skit, he's screaming at all the characters, quickly dishing out the dialogue. Like, he is... Like, one of my favorite things about Japanese voice actors in general is that I think it's easier for them to do the... voice acting with insane speed, but you almost expect it to be the case with dub voice actors because they have to get all that dialogue out.
Oh, sure.
In usually a slightly shorter period of time than would feel natural.
Or
for them.
There's the fitting to the lip flaps and all that
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
So that part kind of creates this disjointed feel.
Yes.
But when he was popping off, it felt
flowed.
like it felt like a rap flow almost.
Yeah, like
he just kept going, and he didn't take like a breath almost.
Nope.
It felt like,
and that kind of thing is like a lot of anime will go for sort of like the does shouting really loud, you know, like improve everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it's anime, right? So
Baka!
You can make things more dramatic and whatnot, right? Yeah,
loud
absolutely.
equals funny. Not necessarily.
But
here,
but
loud plus speed.
Right. You know, there's ways to own that, basically.
Yes.
And not just do it casually for the sake of doing it, but like, no. We are sending a message here. Like, and the message was sent very strongly and very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to make a really, really annoyingly weird comparison?
Okay.
In a way that almost belies the stupidity, I think, within this guy, even though he's kind of like totally like he's the president for a reason. Like he knows everyone's first and last name.
Yeah, he knows how to talk.
There were politician bullshit things that I noticed, and also some things that I noticed with the way he would like expectorate a statement. Like he would just like statement, and you'd be like you'd almost feel like you were getting spit on. You're just like, oh.
In fact, there's a good chance that they were.
Yeah. But he reminds me of like a Trump rant. Where he's just like, wrong, and just spouting off statements, and you're just like, oh my god, like, this is so cringy but hilarious. Wow. Oh my god. Like it felt so funny just to see him be like, the audacity.
Right.
Wait.
Because there were the things that he was saying, right? Which, okay, in and of themselves were pretty ridiculous, but were great at characterizing him. But there was also just the incredible confidence that he had with the things that he said.
Yes.
And it made it for some very entertaining stuff. But, you know, of course, you don't just want to have that, because then that'll just kind of get, like, too much noise, annoying, and all of that stuff, right?
Yes.
You need to have people that can dance that dance.
True.
Right?
True.
And Haru. My God.
Baby.
Yeah. Like, I love, it almost felt like some Gamaguri era stuff where it's like, oh yeah, he's, you know, hanging out with everybody and he's like the same height as like Yuki, you know, or whoever, right? And then all of a sudden, Dark Haru comes up and
like swells in
yeah,
size.
a lot of it was camera work, but at the same time, I also think they made him a bit bigger, you know, and then he just starts laying into him and my God, it's glorious, right? And then
amazing.
It's the, oh, yeah, oh, well, to prove that that's your natural hair. It's like, oh, you activated my trap card. Like you
don't realize that I go both ways. I am very much okay with showing off my glorious manes. Manes plural.
You bluffed. You shouldn't have bluffed.
Yeah, exactly.
I will absolutely call that. What? Is this a problem for you? No, let's
go.
But of course, because Haru is a classy individual, he's like, well, let's go over here for a second.
Right,
you know?
right, exactly.
Yeah, I will prove to you.
Right. See, Haru is a 5-head galaxy brain harem protagonist.
Yeah, why is he even going to school? Like, he already knows everything. Like, he doesn't need to learn anything.
No, he's not trying to learn things. He's trying to build a harem. Like, he's slowly but surely...
What? With the T-posing...
He doesn't discriminate. He just sees any slight level of opportunity. He's just like, yes, and then just, boom, T-pose. And
like, the fact that he actually, like, like, okay, yes.
I mean, it was probably
it was probably like
embrace.
Reach out for an embrace, right?
Because he's in love with Yuki.
Indeed. But all I saw was T-posing. And I am okay with that.
It was just that the frame transitioned after the T-posing to him walking up.
Right, exactly. And then he had more like a
yeah, exactly.
Like less
like
extreme
welcome,
embrace.
You know?
Yeah, like a hey, you know.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
So because the thing is, we also had this episode, Kyo doing the kabedon, you know, kind of to be like, hey, back off, right?
Yeah.
You know, don't mess with Tohru. So I absolutely believe that Haru would be the type of person to just be like, hey, if I need to T-pose every once in a while, I will do it.
I will absolutely do it.
But then also the gags that we had with Momiji and the two groupies, and them being like, oh no, yes, you would be amazing and adorable, and then they're just fawning over him and like crying.
Consistently in the background of every scene, you can see them in a different pose, just like kneeling
worshiping
before
him, basically. And it's amazing.
It's glorious.
But then you also have the repeat of the joke that was one of my favorite jokes in the show, which is, oh, guy like sees Yuki, oh, but imagines Yuki in
a girl's
uniform. Oh. Wait. Tears. And the fact that it's not just like the one time when people say it, but it like sticks into their head. Like oh man. That if that becomes a running gag, that Yuki is just that beautiful, right? That
he
suddenly
can be your prince or your princess.
Indeed, that's right, and he will do a fantastic job at both. I love that, and then also as the sort of question answer to his whole thing of, oh no, you can't wear a girl's uniform, Amiji. No, and then suddenly, oh wait, oh
no,
wait,
no,
maybe
you definitely can.
Maybe that's okay.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. All right. Then we get the transition that, oh, hey,
high highs to low lows.
And Tohru, of course, split just before this happened because, you know, it's a family thing.
Yeah.
But I'm really surprised that, well, no, I'm not surprised. Just the fact that this was used as the method by which she would interact with Akito before, you know, maybe bumping into...
Right.
Well, no, before
knowing that he was there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Akito gave different responses for different people, and this is kind of interesting. Is that
he's a manipulator, so that makes sense.
Well, yeah, but this is the thing that's weird here, is that when they got the info, Yuki is the one that feels the most, I would say, immediately, obviously, not okay with it.
Right.
But his thoughts surrounding it are about, well, oh, he sees Akito with Tohru. What did you do to Tohru?
Right.
Not a thing of, why are you here?
Yep.
Not a thing of, are you wanting to see me? Is this about me? He doesn't bring anything with himself into this. He's really, really worried that he did something to Tohru.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, that's insinuating he has some kind of power. It's something that he could have used in that moment there. Right.
And whether it was to what extent it might have been used, we don't know necessarily, but there's a very...
I don't think it was used.
No, yeah, I don't think it was used here, but I mean, in the past with Yuki, there's a very good chance that Yuki was specifically...
under the effect of it.
Yeah.
I definitely think that we're getting hints as to what it could be, but I don't think it's... I don't think it's that obvious right now.
Yeah,
because we're dealing with the fantastical aspects of the Zodiac, but the only power that we have as a frame of reference is
memory erasing.
Memory erasing, which is so powerful that it feels like, wait, Akito's is something that could be potentially even scarier than that.
And so, I don't think this is the case, but I just want to throw it out there that there is also the possibility that it's not a literal power, but it's like the creepy influence manipulation type stuff that he can do, you know, and that like it's his words or something like that,
or at the very least he could say something about Yuki. To her,
right, or say something threatening or whatever, and I love how immediately protective and defensive everyone was, and like Yuki wanted to make sure, like, you know, he didn't say anything of like, you know, leave them or I'll do horrible things or you know or something like that.
What I want to bring up though is the fact that Momiji was saying if you want to try and avoid him, basically, just, you know, I'm just letting you know that he's here. So the idea was not necessarily of watch to make sure he doesn't do anything. Was do you want to try to take action in order to make sure you don't bump into him?
Yeah.
Which I want to throw out a couple things then, because I like to read way too deep into things.
Go for it.
One, I don't think he has a power that is based on observation, because then it would be harder to avoid him. I think.
Okay.
I think that, meaning if he has a power that's like...
so like some kind of clairvoyance or
clairvoyance or telepathy or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think he has that necessarily.
All right, yeah, I like it.
But I got a different vibe from him. I got a different vibe from him. And that he seems to be the kind of person who very much is like, oh, I don't like that we don't have this bond, you know, anymore because you skipped out on New Year's. God. That hurt my feelings. And now, what I really like in the simplest form of this is I have seen in the family dynamic the kind of, I would say, accepted shaming that has happened when you're not following the precepts of the family. That is a very common thing.
Yeah,
and people become basically known as the black sheep of the family because, well, they didn't show up for New Year's.
Right.
And when they did the previous year, they brought that bitch so-and-so, and that was just not very cool, you know?
Yeah, this is something where I, as much as, like, there's a part of me that's like, no, this show doesn't need a villain. Like, you know, there's also a part of me that's like, this is, as extreme as Akito is, I feel like it's very helpful because things like that can go unnoticed.
Sure.
For what they are, because they're not as extreme.
Yeah, because he's basically just kind of walking in and being like, hey, I've missed you.
Right. And
he didn't do anything to Tohru.
Yep, and
he was cordial with her.
Yep. But it's obvious here how slimy it is and how awful it is, right?
Because apparently
yeah,
he did some things to Yuki.
Right. Yeah. All there. We have all sorts of reasons to know that Akito is a monster. Yeah.
Yep.
And I like that because that's one of those things where that's one of the things that stories can do is basically take something in the real world and then put it in a different light, show it in a more extreme circumstance, and then be like, oh yeah, is that okay?
Right.
No, it's not.
I think that fantasy stories in general are also some of the best at this because the means by which things are done can lend itself to extremes because there's some kind of magic or some kind of...
Things can get wackier.
Special fantastical power or something like that.
Exactly.
But with Akito's, he put Yuki in isolation. In not necessarily a place where he wouldn't see anyone, but maybe he only saw Akito, or at the very least, he just wasn't able to leave.
Yeah.
So I want to throw out some weird ideas as to like the kinds of powers, because this is something I do just for fun. I like to design special abilities for like characters and stuff, usually for D&D kind of stuff. But it's basically a mechanism that comes with an inherent weakness. So some kind of positive breaking of the rules of reality, but some glaring weakness attached to it. My initial thought is he is the representation of the toxic bond. Where he basically is the family member that makes bonds with people, like a sort of a promise or a vow or some kind of deal, and there's kind of that devil kind of association with that. But once they've made that vow or that bond or something like that, they have to follow it. They have to basically reciprocate with it. So it's a forced aspect of we're going to be in a relationship. We're going to be close, right? But it's completely toxic. It's entirely something that doesn't allow for change if a person like decides, no, you know what? I don't like this anymore.
Because people grow and things like that.
Exactly. And his main issue with Yuki seems to be that Yuki has moved away from the family. Right. Like he's separated himself a lot.
And I think we might have mentioned this in a previous discussion or something, but that really does make it so that Akito is the perfect villain for this story, because this story, you know, is really, when it comes down to it, it's about family, right? Yeah. And the
Tohru
wonderful
is Tohru is the, you know,
like perfect opposite of Akito, right? In this situation, right? She's getting at what family really is and can be, in a positive sense, and Akito is all the negative, twisted, messed
because
up.
he's the one that has the family.
Right.
She doesn't, but she's building the family, whereas Akito's actions might be actively tearing it apart.
Exactly.
And so there's this aspect of, I would say, a lack of self-awareness on both of their sides of things.
Sure.
In that they don't necessarily either
realize what they're doing
or realize the influence that they have.
Yeah.
I think it's not that they realize. I think it's more that Akito maybe doesn't
care.
Well, he doesn't necessarily, I would say, hold his power with light, like something.
Yeah.
He holds it maybe too heavily, and thus he comes across really brutish and brutish. Like even though I think that's not really his character. I think that's more of just the way he's using his power or influence, and then the fact that he has traumatic past associated with someone like Yuki. So it's like,
I feel like with Akito, it's something where he has this notion that he deserves everything, like family related. Okay. And with Tohru, she feels she doesn't deserve it, right? So even though she's doing all these things that are bringing it about and causing it, she still won't take credit for it or things like that. She still will, be very self-deprecating along the whole way.
Yeah.
But
okay. The other power that I could see potentially being involved here is something with regards to this is a weird one, but ownership.
Oh.
And this is one I think could be based on more of a thing of like, oh, if you're a member of the family, or even a member of the Zodiac, maybe more specifically, there's some kind of ritual that Akito does basically that claims you. And that's why when people were coming in to be like, they're going to take like Hattori, basically, he was like, no, you can't have him. He's mine.
Right.
And there's some kind of transaction that's been had. And if you're a member of the Zodiac, whoever the head of the family is, you literally belong to them. And that's probably the thing that could be a thing of where it fucked up Akito, is that Akito doesn't understand the idea of all of these people having forced relationships with him that are based around servitude, and not necessarily intimacy.
And whether or not that's actually his power, that's still kind of the dynamic that's happening.
Right? That's what I'm just trying to think of it as a power, not as
right, as a way to bring like an extra highlight to it, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the way the other Soma family members treat Akito is far better than he deserves, right? It's kind of like there's this situation of it's bad, he's bad, but we can't really change that because he's the head of the family, and that's just how it is, right?
Yeah, or there's maybe, is there some kind of pity?
Maybe.
I feel like Shigure has the best maybe angle on this, because he seems to pity Akito.
Yeah, but he also despises Akito.
No, I think that's the thing, though. If you despise someone, but you spend enough time with them, I think you'll begin to empathize just a little bit. Maybe this is me being a very, very skewed on the empathetic side of things, but I think as you spend time with a person, enough time, yes, you can definitely build up resentment, you can definitely build up that familiarity side of things, but I think you can also get into that other side, which is...
Right, you have to figure out how to understand them somehow.
Yeah, I have to figure out how to understand them somehow, so every one of these people are human beings.
Right.
So there's going to be a part of humanity in them. It's just how suppressed or how oppressed is it. And I could see Akito's just being extremely suppressed. And given that he's physically unwell, and also he's young, I could see Shigure being one where he's like, yeah, you need to eat your consequential pie, basically.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But also, I get it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where the I will say that if Akito was even 10 years older, but certainly if he was 20 years older, more around the age where it's
Shigure.
Of Shigure or someone like that, where him being the head of the house seems like it doesn't have to be some crazy weird circumstance, you know?
Yeah.
Then I don't believe I would ever be able to see Akito as being kind of redeemable in a way. in this
Yeah,
situation,
he's set up in a weird way to be eventually understood. Not
And
necessarily redeemable, but understood.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that will be the way that he will be defeated, is that by getting closer to Tohru to try and understand her and be like, okay, you know, I need to keep her from doing anything that takes, you know, my possessions away from me.
Light always wins against darkness.
Exactly.
That is just the way it is.
And the fact that he's a kid, basically, but he's like the head of the household and things like that, and we had stuff like Yuki mentioning like not having parents and whatnot, like where the angle that the story could take would be something of Akito also kind of being a product of his environment and things like that, which, you know, is probably the case, right?
Probably the case.
He's still a monster, but, you know.
Yeah, probably the case based on the fact that I think Shigure probably has been in this house for longer than Akito has been the head of the house.
That's a very good possibility.
Because what I think we haven't considered the idea of is there's a possibility of, since we don't have parents associated with any of the Zodiac members, that doesn't mean that they don't have parents.
They were probably just separated.
It just means that they all have maybe a different trauma associated with their upbringing. And it's just a question of which one of them has maybe gotten the most through it, or which ones are more actively engaged in it right now. And I would say the younger they are, the more likely that they're actively engaged in it. Hence, Shigure feels like the most mature of them. But then we get to know him more and we realize, Shigure, you're kind of you're not a dog, you're a bag of cats. Like you got some whack things going on in there. So
the fact that there is a part of me that dies a little inside whenever they have the jokes of like Shigure, like of Shigure being the perv when he's the dog. It's like, why couldn't
dogs go around and hump legs like it's nobody's business?
Okay, that's
dude.
true. They do sniff a lot of butts and things, and
dogs are kind of a bunch of perverts.
All right. That's fair. That's fair. But I love dogs, so you know.
Horny on Maine, you know.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Woof.
Woof woof.
But
okay, all right. But then we get into the badminton stuff.
That was awesome.
That was just wonderful. Oh wait. Sorry, I forgot to mention Kyo.
Oh,
Kyo.
Oh yeah,
Kyo specifically did not go
down
physically
there.
Close to Akito, but he did the cat thing where he stares at you menacingly,
and he literally had cat eyes for that.
He had the cat eyes like glaring with like.
That's the kind of thing that makes me think, like, remember when they mentioned, like, oh yeah, Kyo, you have that other form that no one should ever see. You know, it's like, wait, was he about to, like, go all Garf on Akito or something?
I think what it was basically Kyo being like, I don't give a fuck. I'll fucking go. Like, you want to do this? You want to do this? He was basically, oh my god, he was basically doing the exact same thing, but scaled up to what the boys were doing when they were like, hey, let's go pick up that girl. Yeah, let's go.
Right, exactly.
Boom, and then he does this. He was doing the exact same thing, but leveled to a point where Akito would respect it.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's actually
defense to match the threat.
Exactly. He's matching it with that level of intensity.
Right.
Whereas he didn't need to put that much intensity into, you know, dumb guys being like, oh, she's kind of spacing out. Hey, it's my type, strong girls.
One of the things that I would love to see at some point. Now, granted, this show is not an action show in any way, right? No. So I don't expect it to necessarily go into like serious fights, you know?
Okay.
Like there's all the sparring, who's stronger, sure. But
I mean, there are fights. Actually,
all right. Okay. This show could definitely go into fights and everything. But one of the things that I want to see, whether it's in fights or in just general conflict, like social conflict or emotional conflict or whatever, is to have a point where Kyo and Yuki team up basically because they're the two sides of the coin, right? Where Yuki, with Akito, Yuki is like, he's dangerous but also like shit, he has a big effect on me.
Yeah.
And then Kyo is the, I don't care. I'm not part of the family. Like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like that kind of vibe. I would love to see that happen where Kyo actually, like, has Yuki's back, at a point or something like that. Like,
cool.
that would be so cool. But,
final bit, though, just the idea of how much Tohru means to these boys, basically, but also specifically to Yuki, because I think that the more and more we get to know Yuki, is that he's really more the what's a good word? Not fragile, but he's
Yeah.
wispy. He's like ephemeral. He's
Right.
like this. He's like this, like gloriously beautiful little like film of fabric. Like
he's like an ice sculpture. I feel like
Yeah.
it's and that fits his aesthetic too. With the color design and everything. But like it's something that I really appreciate that they have here, because Yuki kind of on the surface seems like he has everything, right?
I'm so cool.
I'm so cool. The girls are falling over me. I'm probably going to become student council president. And I don't even want to.
He doesn't care about that at all.
He doesn't care about that at all, right? Which is like, yeah, you don't usually care about the things that you have easily, right? But the fact that then there's also this thing of no. He is very much broken. He has things that he has to, deal with and work on and things like that. That's a great just contrast and contradiction for a character to separate him from the potential character archetype of the I'm the pretty boy who has everything.
Yeah, I feel like he's cast that aside a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make that comparison. What I'm saying is more that when we saw him here with Akito, it was probably the most scared and most fragile and weakest vulnerable that we've ever seen him. And yet, he has shown that same level, I would say, of emotional vulnerability with Tohru in the past. And yet, you can almost feel like new life coming into him in every single one of those encounters. So, as in this instance with Akito, you could feel almost the life getting drained out of him. In this here, you can definitely feel that, no, just by having a silly badminton game...
Yep.
And Tohru being there, she banished the terror from his heart. Like,
that was such a good line.
Like the idea of using like powerful verbs to get across the point.
Yep.
Banish is like, I sent this to another plane of existence.
Yep.
It is worlds away.
Yep. You could not get it back here, no matter how hard you tried.
Well,
I mean, okay. No, I mean, if Akito came back,
my
he'd come back.
My point is that Tohru did that. That is not something that Tohru did with Yuki.
Right.
That is something where Tohru, by being herself, threw basically the darkness so far away that it left his mind.
Right.
It's still there in his heart. Like, the memories and all that is still there.
It's not just going to go away.
It's not going to just go away and be instantly healed or anything like that. The difference, though, is that it was thrown so completely far from his mind that it would take another encounter with Akito to bring it back up again.
Exactly. Yep.
And I love that, because usually, like you were saying with that archetype, there's this idea that the girl is usually the one that's so fragile and ephemeral, and that if anything dark and dangerous touches her, shatter.
It's easy for the main character to be the one that then has that has everyone else help them. Right,
Sure.
Where it's like, oh yeah, here's my cool thing. Here's what I can give you, how it can help
and
you,
there's this
benefit you,
feedback
whatever.
loop back to the main character.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly, right. But in this case, it starts with Tohru giving, and then everyone else giving back to Tohru. Like in the few moments that we get where she is vulnerable and things like that.
Yeah, I feel
or
like
not vulnerable.
I feel like the
like,
difference though is that it's not that she necessarily gets much back because she's not open to receive that often.
Totally.
But I think the thing is that the characters around her are so prone and ready to receive something like this that Tohru being in their life is like a like a breath of fresh air, and they all just can't help but be around her.
It's the animals going to the watering hole. It's just
why would they leave?
Right? Why would they leave? You can't avoid that. They will all go there, and regardless of what kind of animals they are, right? Even
everyone
if they're
needs to drink.
Theoretically, even if they're enemies, right? They all. It's like, okay, no, we got to drink.
Yeah, but love this episode. Love this episode so much.
Yep.
Yeah.
This was. I mean, this might be my new favorite episode from this show.
I think it goes up there in the top 3.
I think there's
one other one that's still my favorite.
Fantastic.
This was really good.
And I gotta say again, I know it might seem like a little thing, but the fact that they sandwiched Akito's stuff with wholesome fun on both sides, I feel like is so important.
Yeah, it draws an impression that they were having a really good time before Akito showed up, and once he left, that good time was immediately restored.
Exactly.
So the dark cloud that seemed to occupy their thoughts and their eyesight, and they couldn't see the sun beyond it, it was actually just a small cloud.
Yep.
And the winds carried it through, and, this too shall pass, so...
Right.
Just
like the fact that I think that effect wouldn't have even had the same effect if the comedy in the beginning hadn't been so front loaded and like so good and like lasted so long, because it's like no, this was really, they were having the time of their lives, and then Akito comes in, but then he leaves. So.
Yeah. Y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.